Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. For the chicken coop, actually I'm gonna start calling it a chicken shed, and I think by the time I'm done with it, it'll probably be a chicken mansion or something. I wanted to take this opportunity today to show you how to cut roof. This style roof is a lean-to. Basically it's just got one side. And today we're gonna focus on the bird's mouth area, which is where the joist lands and sits on the top plate or your wall, or like over here I got a beam going through. This here is just a sample piece that I had going just to make sure all my cuts were going to be good. If you do have that luxury, you could even use a piece of 1x, or this is just a piece of scrap I had laying around. Take that time and figure out your cuts before you start cutting it on your new boards that you went and got. First thing we want to do is figure out the pitch of the roof. So this is a 2 and 12 pitch. You can do any pitch you want, really. 2 and 12 is pretty good. It gets the rain off pretty quick. We don't really have much snow. If you were in more of a snow load area, we'd probably give it more of a pitch. And what pitch means is every foot, it's gonna raise 2 inches. So every 12 inches, it's going to raise up 2 inches. So this is 6 foot long, so that means this is raised up 1 foot. So now that we know our pitch, first thing we want to do is cut the tails of the eaves so that when we put up gutters or fascia, it's not hanging out on an angle like this. It'll be straight up and down. So let's get started on that. Because we know that it's going to be a 2 and 12 pitch, speed squares come in really handy for these things. We're going to follow the common and we're going to go to 2. That gives you a 2 and 12. And take this back to 2. Right on the edge of the board. And then we'll mark that through. Now, something else to notice while we're here is this 2, let's get it perfect, lines up with this 10. So this is your degrees. So this 2 and 12 pitch is a 10-degree cut, which will make it really easy once we get over to the table saw. Now let's go over there and cut all these at a 2 and 12 pitch or 10 degrees. So now we got our rafter tail cut at a 2 and 12 or 10 degrees, as we found out. What I want to do is measure off that point 1 foot. And I'll make a mark. I'm doing a 1 foot eave. You could do more if you like. It's up to you. And I'll bring that 1 foot mark right to the edge of the top plates. So I got that one found out down here. So we'll go over to the other side and mark that where it lands over there. So in theory, you could measure this. I'm trying to do this more unconventionally, the easier way for someone that's never done it before. This just is easier just to kind of set it up there and mark it. So let's take this down and make some marks. Another thing I want to add real quick is take that piece you measured at one end and take it to the other end and just make sure that the marks you made line up. If they don't, then go with the one that's longer, because you can shorten them up as you go down to one end. All right, so we got our mark down here at the bottom side. From there, your pivot point, just pivot it to the 2 on your common here, 10 degrees, and give that a mark through. But what I'm trying to do here is make it really simple. Mark 3.5 inches from that, from here. And then I'll bring that mark through. Doesn't have to go all the way, it's just a reference. A framing square works really well for this because it's flatter. Your speed square's got that one edge and it just makes it tough. I want to cut out the minimal amount of wood off of this joist, or rafter, whichever you want to call it. So this mark here is my angle that it needs to be cut to land on that top plate correctly. So I'm going to take this framing square and line it up with that mark that we made, and then that 3.5 inch mark here, just want to have this go through and end at 0 there at that 3.5 inch mark. Take that and mark it through. And this is what we will remove right here. This is called the heel. So we have the heel and the, oh geez, I know what it's called. Shoulder cut. So we want to bring this heel cut through so we can cut that. You could get out the old trusty handsaw and make that cut, but I do prefer a skill saw. Set your blade depth before you change your angle. Set your blade depth so that the last tooth on that blade just wants to go at the point of the heel and the shoulder. Lock your saw. Set it to the 10-degree mark. And then cut your mark out. Now the next cut, make sure you flatten your table back out and you put your saw depth all the way down. This is going to be much easier with a skill saw because you're going to be able to keep your saw table flat, and that'll make this cut flat. Compared to a hand saw where it's going to be hard to come in at this shallow cut and try and get that. Follow your mark and just meet that edge there. Then you can get your hand saw and finish the cut. We're pretty much going to follow the same routine for this up here. Three and a half inches from that point, framing square, follow that angle mark until the edge of your framing square lands on that 3.5 inch point. Mark it through. Bring this point through. Now, a good thing to do is to dry fit it now that you've got one cut. So set it up there, see how it looks, make sure it's all good. No more math too much involved. We'll basically line each of these up with that angle cut that we made and scribe that mark through. Now, I would suggest writing a sample or template or SAM on the one that you did first. Use that one to mark all of these. Don't cut one and then use that one to mark the next one because it'll start growing on you. So just use the one that you originally cut to mark the rest of these. Okay, so to make life real easy, if you're comfortable with the skill saw, take all the boards that you're trying to cut and line them all up. And if you got one, get out the old bar clamp. And doing this, putting them together, lining them up, you can cut them all at once, at least this cut. That'll keep you from having variances in doing these individually. This cut though, shoulder cut, we're gonna have to cut individually. Okay, so we got the joists up, but we're not finished yet. Remember back to when I said mark both ends of your building on your joists and go with the longer one. That comes into play here. See how there's a gap there? And as they go down, they get tighter. So what that's doing here is these aren't exactly flush all the way through. It's gonna have a gap this much from this point to that far one down there. So what we're gonna do is measure this distance and take it out of the top there. 1/4 inch. It's a much better fit there now. So we could call this done. You could just throw some plywood on top here, but rather than buying plywood and putting it on here, I'm going to go a different route. And because a building without eaves is a real pain in the butt, because water would just dump down the side here, and I'm going to cut a notch through all these joists. That'll tie them all together like a piece of plywood would, and I'm gonna have them extend out about 6 inches to a foot, and then we'll add another board on the side here as an eave. It's called a purlin that goes all the way through. So let's get started on that. So if you are gonna go the purlin route, a good tip is to number these so that you put them back in the order that they came out. We sandwiched them all together. Basically what I wanna do is divide this thing into thirds. These are 8 foot long, just under, so we'll call it 4 feet to center, and then we'll just do 2 feet on either side of that. That seems pretty easy. Can't go wrong. So 2 and 6. And off that mark, we will measure 1 3/4 inches. And that'll give us 3.5 inches here. And we will remove all of this. Set the depth of a skill saw a 2x4 thickness. Cut that out. Once you get your 2 ends square cut, keep chopping at this here and then we'll chisel it out. Nail it down. Toenail it right here and up at the beam. So I think that does it for today's video and the rough framing. If you want to see how long this takes me, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you found this interesting and informative, hit the thumbs up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. And then I'll make a mark at 6 inches. And, and then set that earmuffs. Cover your ears.